Hey guys, jayvee here, and today I'm sharing my top 5 changes we still need in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more Valhalla videos just like this. It's only been 2 months since Valhalla launched. We just got the third big update to the game, and we can tell that Ubi is very much still in the smoothing out bugs and fixing the game phase. But like many of you, I've completed the game, I've almost done everything, and I'm just kind of waiting to see what's next. With river raids right around the corner next month, I thought it'd be fun to revisit my top 5 changes I want to see in Valhalla, whether they come through free content updates or DLC. Number 1, certainly on my list and many people's lists, is just Transmog. Just a system where we can change the appearance of our gear from one piece to another. We just need it. At this point, it's really hard to not draw comparisons with Assassin's Creed Odyssey because we know that that game got a transmog system just 6 weeks after launch. But I hesitate to use that as a way to say there's no excuse transmog shouldn't be in the game already. These are different studios. Even though they're both Ubisoft, that was Quebec, this is Montreal. There are different plans, different people controlling the post-launch content. I would still love to see this feature sooner rather than later. The big thing that's actually annoying me right now is the fact that when I upgrade my armor pieces beyond the flawless level to mythical, I really don't like a lot of the designs. They're a little gaudy, a little too flashy, they're very gold. I find myself keeping a lot of my armor sets at the flawless level, that silver tier, because they just look really cool and kind of fit in more with the world and look more realistic to my eye. Looking back at Odyssey, that game has a really robust transmog system, and that is pretty much what my expectation is for Valhalla. I want to be able to cycle through different materials or color combinations for weapons and armor. And like I mentioned before, I want to be able to upgrade my armor to mythical, but keep it at like a flawless level in terms of the visual design. I think that's more than reasonable. And then one more tiny little change that I think makes all the difference. I want to be able to separate the hood from the cape. I want to be able to hide my cape, but keep my hood on. Something about that big billowy cape to me isn't super aesthetically pleasing. I want to be able to keep the hood on, but like see more of Eivor's animations. I just think a lot of animations look better without the cape. Next is New Game Plus. This is just a key part of any open world experience. These days, it's almost expected that your game does have a New Game Plus mode. Valhalla is a massive video game. I think it's bigger than a lot of us expected. However, like many of you, I've had the urge to want to restart the story, but I don't want to start completely from ground zero. If Odyssey's post-launch plans are any indicator of what happens for Valhalla, yes, I know I mentioned that in the last point, New Game Plus came a couple months after launch for Odyssey, so maybe we'll see something about that soon for Valhalla. The biggest reason for me to dive back in beyond the story is combat. I really want Valhalla to feel challenging again, and I'm sure we'll experience that in some of the DLC and free content updates that actually, add more content. But yeah, once you get past a certain point in Valhalla, you just become so powerful that you steamroll through absolutely everything that's in front of you. New Game Plus would bump up the difficulty just a bit to offset the fact that you have all of your abilities and weapons, right? But at the same time, it should offer a harder difficulty than what we have right now. Similar to Transmog, this is just one of the items on the list that we assume is going to come. We're going to get New Game Plus at some point. Right now, it's more of a matter of when rather than if. I would not be surprised if something like this came with the River Raids update, or maybe they're going to wait until Wrath of the Druids to roll out a New Game Plus mode for Valhalla. Swords. Yeah, one-handed swords. Yep. I am one of those people. I've officially joined the group. I was very hesitant to say that Valhalla needed one-handed swords because it's not something I associated with Vikings. However, I really do miss that kind of weapon type, especially going back and playing a bit of Origins and a bit of Odyssey. It's just a different flavor of weapon that I think needs to be in the mix, especially for this time period. Plus, this almost goes without saying, but it's like a Chekhov's gun problem. You can't put a bunch of one-handed swords in the hands of your Yams Vikings and enemies and Saxons, but then not let us use it, right? It's in front of us the entire game. It's like dangling a carrot, but then taking the carrot away right when you think you're going to get it. I think it would be really smart for Ubi to introduce a new weapon type, not just new weapons like we got with the Yule Festival with the Mondranit ceremonial dagger, that was a new sax, but a new class of weapon, or maybe several. Some things that come to mind for me are obviously the one-handed sword. That's the first thing that comes to mind, but also like massive two-handed hammers I think would be really fun to use. Again, this is a type of weapon that we see enemy Goliaths use. It would be great if Eivor could use that. And ideally, I know it may not happen this way, but I would love for these new weapon classes to be added across the board as free content. So obviously with Wrath of the Druids, we're going to be earning new weapons that are exclusive to that DLC that you have to pay for. But it would be great if they added like a common sword to the mix that you could just buy at any merchant in the game, and there you have it. You know, you've got one-handed swords for absolutely everyone. That way, everyone can experience what it feels like to play around with the new weapon classes. Next is repeatable content. Now, I know river raids are ideally going to fill this void. They already have been described as a repeatable mode, a repeatable format that we can do over and over and over and get rewards from. But at the same time, we're 2 months out from launch, and Valhalla's already running into that issue of, okay, well, I've completed the game. Now what do I do next? If I really do love this game and I don't want to play any other video game, what do? It really doesn't have an answer for that yet. Outside of the river raids, I think the ring forts in the Wrath of the Druids DLC would be a perfect opportunity to give us a repeatable piece of content. One thing that we can do over and over again and tackle it in different ways. Now, you can technically go back to Valhalla's many different fortresses and even the raid locations, and you'll find some NPCs respawning there. So it's kind of like there is a way to go back and do things, but there's no like narrative connection or any kind of built-in system to reward you for doing that. Just an example I thought of, it'd be really cool to redo some of those big fortress assaults that happen during major narrative beats in the storyline. I could absolutely see there being some kind of Saxon or Dane ruler coming in, occupying that fortress with their men after we've already cleared it, and then giving us a narrative reason to go back and clear that again, because again, we're trying to clear England and make it a safe place for our clan. Perhaps that's going to be the way that river raids function and why we're able to repeat those in, you know, quote, new areas over and over again. We'll have to see. But yeah, I just think that Valhalla needs more replayable, repeatable content for those people that just want more game. And finally, more quality of life fixes. This isn't one single thing, but if you guys didn't know, these are changes that just make the game better, like refine it, make it better to return to, but also make it better for people picking up the game for the very first time. This is stuff that I mentioned during my first top 5 changes we need video that I made right after launch. For me, number 1 is better gear previews. We did get an update that shows us now what it looks like to buy a tattoo. We don't just have like a scroll icon, we know what that tattoo looks like, but it's in this tiny little square. I want to see that item on Eivor. I want to be able to preview it on my Eivor before I buy it. That just makes sense to me. Plus, the functionality is already there. We get gear previews in the Animus store, but that's stuff you have to buy. So yeah, I just think it should be in the main game. Next, I just want better gear sorting. This is something I mentioned before, but it's still a bit unintuitive to manage and sift through gear in my inventory. I feel like I'm scrolling through a million items and it's hard to parse out exactly what I'm looking for at a glance. I want to be able to do things like compare items more easily with red down arrows and green up arrows, showing me statistically this is better than that. I want to be able to better manage my runes. Right now, again, it just feels like everything's thrown in one location and you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Right now, if I'm looking for one type of gear, for example, light shields, I have to just sift through all of my gear. I want to be able to sort for one specific type of item. And then, man, I would love to see loadouts like Odyssey has. I just want to be able to play around with more different gear combinations, and it de-incentivizes me when I have to swap every single individual piece every time I want to experiment. I want to set like a fire build. I want to set a poison build. I want to play around with a lot of things, and the loadouts will incentivize me to do that. And there you have it. That is it for me. My top 5 changes I want to see in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But of course, I am only one person. You guys may have things you want to see more rather than others or something completely new. Let me know in the comment section below. Which changes do you want to see in future updates or DLC? I'd love to know. Right now, we're playing the waiting game, waiting for more information on river raids or really anything else. Like discovery mode also is just something we don't know anything about. So next time we get some more news, I'll make sure to break it down right here on the channel. Big thanks to my YouTube members, my Ultra fans, Dave, Grass, Deadwalker, Bill, Cam, Jacob, and Cullen. Super fans, Kamal, Casey, Tipsy Sergey, Tarl K, Ryan, and Tia. Fans, John, Matthew, Spyro, JVO, Level 42, Joe, Lilman, and Bloodsky. And my supporters, Nos, Nightmare, Sung, Taryn, Adam, Blaze, Mr. Hollow, Quickness, Firkin, Abhishek, Shug, Rivi, John, and Jennifer for supporting the channel. If you want to support me further, click the join button below this video. In exchange for your support, you'll unlock custom badges, emotes, and monthly play sessions with the community. Check the link in the description below for more information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.